Testing.
You want to be on the stream or not? Yeah, so if you can wait on the one to begin with the...
I just want to test the microphone.
It's so annoying. You walking around the arena going testing. It works. All right.
Well, you've got to adjust for your voice.
It works. Right, now listen. When you go in there, you have to do sort of all of that little blah, blah, blah. Just a few announcements before we start. Fire escapes are there. Please turn off your mobile phones. Yeah.
No drinks in the arena. Mobile phone.
That rules out any possibility of anybody accident where the flash turned on when someone's down on the winning shot and somebody takes a bloody photo. So yes, clear. There you go. You get quite a lot of shit.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Imperial Hotel here in Blackpool, England. This is the team men's final for 2017. But before we get underway, I'd just like to please, I could have your attention, please, for a few announcements. Now, fire escapes, I believe are just behind me on my left and right. No drink on the arena, please. Mobile phones must be turned off or on silent, and no cameras or videos during play, please. Thank you. Now, it is my pleasure to bring in the teams for this match. Please, if you could all put your hands together for the first team to come into the arena will be Ireland. Please be upstanding. And before I introduce their opponents, the referee for this match, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Sasha Gauci from Malta. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Ireland's opponents, please, let's hear it for England. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to wish these two teams the very best of luck, and I introduce them to the traditional handshake. Come on, big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for these two teams, Ireland and England. Referee, please take control. Come on, one more time for these two teams. Big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Ireland and England, who will do battle in this final today.
So, after 10 days of great pool, this is what we've all been playing for, the final of the World Team Championships. Coming to you live from the Imperial Hotel in Blackpool. Commentary from the match from Mark Shepherd, and with me Dave Veery again. Morning, Dave.
Morning, Mark. How are you?
Very good. After our late night, well, you were excused the last match last night, but what for me was a very late night finish with the
Well, I was watching it with you guys. I think yesterday was definitely an interesting day, let's put it that way. We had England beat India in a very clinical fashion. I don't think England made too many mistakes. India made a few mistakes, but I feel probably if they'd sort of, the only chance they would have had against England is if they really didn't make any mistakes throughout the match. So England definitely deserved to qualify. And then we had the evening match, Scotland against Ireland, which probably the only way I can describe that is it was Shredsville, really, wasn't it? They just all suffered under the pressure. I think it all started with a few sort of frames with a few misses, and it just became contagious, didn't it?
That was exactly what it was. It was contagious. It looked like it could have got off to a good start, then a couple of strange things happened, and it just descended after that to an extraordinary series of misses. I mean, good shots were being played, but they were being punctuated by very unusual ones.
Absolutely.
It was becoming a difficult match to describe or to analyse, really, because people were just playing the wrong shot. It wasn't that they were executing it badly. They were just playing very unusual shots that they wouldn't normally play. As I was watching the match, I sort of felt that whichever team lost probably wouldn't have any complaints about it because they knew they didn't play well. And the team that won, which in the case was Ireland, just think they got away with one, really. And actually, it could work in their favour today because they're sort of playing with the freedom now, aren't they? Because really they should have lost yesterday the way they played, but they eventually sort of won, actually with a few frames to spare. So they could come out all guns blazing today, and hopefully the pressure won't show like it did yesterday, because to be fair, it did make for very entertaining viewing, but it's not the pool that we're expecting at the latter stages of the World Pool Championships.
No, I guess it was what we were expecting to see at some point. The tension of playing out in this arena and playing for your country and your team is hard to talk too much about. It's a very different pressure from the one that most people experience just playing in normal singles events. But I think you're absolutely right. The freedom that Ireland may well have here. We see Sean Sharkey, who's hitherto been one of Ireland's best players. He, like everyone, struggled slightly last night, but everyone knows what a good player he is when he gets going.
It's just some uncharacteristic shots, wasn't it? Shot selection, pots missed, which you can understand, but even the shot selection itself was going awry yesterday, wasn't it?
I think it was the shot selection that was the strangest thing about it. There were numerous occasions where we were considering the player might be thinking about one thing and they did something wildly different. And whilst it's always subjective and whilst commentators always get things wrong, it was kind of more than that last night. There were some very unusual shots played.
Absolutely. Well, Sean Sharkey broke, potted a few balls. It's now Carl Sutton on the table. He'll be happy with that because yesterday he started off and he got broken dished in the first frame, didn't he? So yes, he'll be glad to get his hand on the table this time.
Yeah, and I think he'll be glad to get his hand on the table, given where the balls were. If that red had dropped, Sean Sharkey would have been on his way. So.
And you fully expect Carl to clear up from here? All the yellows are out in the open?
Well, they are, although this is one above the left middle pocket.
He's just got to get position for that one in the middle pocket, hasn't he? But he's had a look at that straight away, so he's already eyeing that up, and he's going to sort of plan his route to get to that as soon as possible.
It was a real contrast of styles. England were playing their characteristic one-visit stuff where, OK, they weren't clearing up every time, but more often than not, if they were left an opportunity, they were getting the job done. Wow.
Oh, OK, we spoke too soon. This could be a repeat of last night, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I think
it's just early doors at this stage.
I think Carl was just trying to force through an angle that wasn't quite there. That ball was quite straight, and he was trying to force up for the one we were talking about, the difficult yellow on the left-hand side. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of mistake you don't really see very often from the England team. They were pretty clinical most of the time. First visit or first decent scoring visit, they were getting the job done. The Irish team, it wasn't always that they were playing badly, but the problem was they were just needing too many chances, and I think against this England team they're not going to get all those chances.
No, absolutely. Definitely not going to get as many chances as they got last night, and they know that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that having been said, I think part of the problem was that when you're getting a lot of chances, you kind of assume it's going to carry on like that, and in fact it did carry on like that. I think this is such a different game, and they'll be so aware of how dangerous a team England are that they may actually play very differently today. Sometimes when you're under real pressure, knowing your opponent's good, you play better.
Well, I think the beauty about these championships is over 10 days, so you can have a bad day and then the following day you can play absolutely perfect pool.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, of course, the
vice versa. If you play a fantastic game one day, you're not guaranteed to do exactly the same the next time, are you?
No, and I think there is a degree of pressure on England despite the quality of their performance yesterday. I think they'll be seeing themselves as fairly overwhelming favourites, particularly we saw some of the England team watching the Ireland match in the arena last night. I think having watched that, they will be quite buoyed. But you've got to be careful not to misunderstand it. That was a different situation, and there's no guarantee they'll play like that today.
Well, the one thing England haven't had in this tournament yet is being put under pressure. And yesterday in the semi-finals, at times it looked like India might catch up, but never quite enough to put them under any pressure. So if Ireland can come to get to a good start, get a couple of frames ahead, or even sort of stay level like at 3 frames all, and sort of get towards the latter stages, then we'll see what the England players are like under the pressure. Because one thing's for sure, Ireland certainly have been under the pressure this tournament. I think last night was a perfect example. But the group was so close, apart from England winning it, that throughout the whole sort of group stages, Ireland and all the other countries have been playing under that kind of pressure.
They always have great team spirit, the Irish. And it was a sense of relief talking to some of the team in the bar afterwards last night. I think they were all a little bit bemused as to quite how that match had played out, but obviously
Absolutely.
Delighted to be in the final, and nothing should taint that. I mean, they did what they had to do. They won fairly comfortably in the end. It was just an unusual route to the victory.
Now this is a key shot here because he looks relatively straight and there's quite a few yellows between the red and the black, so he's just going to have to be careful that he plays it the right way to get onto the black. I don't think you can come across the right, but can't tell from this angle. No, he had to go straight back. He's played it okay, but he's landed near the cushion, so yet again we've got a pressure pot to start the first frame off here.
Yeah, I'm figuring there it's better to overdo it than underdo it. He also had, as you say, slightly the wrong angle. He was very slightly off dead straight. If he was absolutely dead straight, he could have come up a bit further to the left. But he'll be happy to have a shot. I mean, he has at least got a clear shot at this black. It's just more difficult than he'd like.
I think it's important for the whole Irish team as well, because if they put a good black like this one, then that will release a lot of the pressure that they've encountered over the last 12 hours.
And it will also be a warning shot for England, because Carl has been in this frame and missed a shot that he wouldn't expect to normally, albeit trying to force position.
No, he missed it by a long way.
And that was the classic twitch as well. I mean, you saw the amount of body movement on that shot. That wasn't how he'd cued the previous shots in this visit.
And it's not how he's cued throughout the whole week, because he's had some fantastic results. None better than beating Tom Cousins in the World Masters comfortably 7-3.
Yeah, devastating player when he's at his best. We saw glimpses of that last night, but again, it was just a little bit ragged in places, and that's exactly what's happened. I mean, that's the kind of classic shot where you've just got to keep your head still, keep everything still, and just get your arm through. And he was sort of up, guiding it towards the pocket.
I think he looked to see where the white was going, and he might have been a little bit nervous it might go in off. And as a result of that, he hit it thin to avoid the in-off. But there was a bit of movement on his shot as well. So the first frame of any match is important, obviously, but now that both these players have had great chances, at least 2 great chances each, this has become a key frame to this match.
Now,
has he left a clip? I think he probably just see the black, but not enough to pot it. And with the yellow being so close to the back, it's very difficult to swerve around a little bit to sort of help it.
Yeah, it's in a very difficult place to swerve. It does look like he ought to be able to see the side, but if he can only see the bottom of it as we look at it here, he's just going to be cutting it away from the pocket. If you see from that camera angle, there's a good few inches between the black and the pocket, so it's not like just making contact sufficient. So he's coming off the side cushion. Oh no, he isn't. Oh, I'm sorry, that did pot. It looked like he was lining up to the side of that. Well,
Massive relief there for him as well, though, I think, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? Well, that's a very careless shot from Cole to play a safety shot like that where you leave the black. I mean, I think he was sort of playing it as a shot to nothing, but the cardinal rule there was to make sure that the black was covered.
So first blood to Ireland.
Well, this is a better start. I mean, they still needed 2 opportunities, but...
So we've now got Dave Fernandez playing against Robert Brady, both experienced players.
Yeah, we saw a lot of emotion from Robert Brady last night. He looked so kind of quiet and demure while he was playing the frame, and a massive celebration at the end when he clinched his second frame. Had a very tense second frame that could have gone the wrong way, but managed to hold himself together. Talking to him afterwards, he was definitely very relieved to get that one done. Very proud Irishman. Has been a fixture of a number of teams here in the past.
Now looking at the score sheet, it looks like they're kept to the same 7 that both played yesterday. Because for England on the subs bench at the moment is Rob Warne, Gavin Lomax and Aaron Davies. And on the Irish bench it's Martin, get me glasses on there, Martin Carolyn, Ken Martin and Geroid O'Gorman. Hopefully I pronounced that right.
Sure
You did tell me
we'll
how
get some
to
feedback
pronounce it yesterday, but I can't remember what he said now.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a subs bench for England, isn't it? Those are 3 players, Rob Warne and Gavin Lomax, hugely experienced, and we've seen them lots of times at this stage. And Aaron Davis, the young up-and-coming player who's very highly rated. To have those 3 having to sit out. You can have a squad of up to 10, but only 7 playing in this first session. The match is the first to 8, so there'll be 8 players in the second session, so England will be introducing one of those subs.
Better break by Dave Fernandez than yesterday when the white went flying off the table at this stage.
Yeah, much better start.
Balls are split openly nicely. Looks like he's going to opt for yellows on the basis there's not really an easy starter for reds.
Yeah, and he'll be happy enough.
Oof.
Well,
again, just shows what the pressure of a final does to players, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just seemed to hit that a little bit harder than he needed to. Just pushed it quite hard onto the far jaw. Similar kind of shot to Cole, missing one onto the far jaw of the middle pocket.
And I think probably one of my favourite finals of all time was when Morocco won 3 years ago, because it was their first ever final. They've only been playing, you know, the World Rules Championships for a couple of years, but when they got to the final, they did not miss a pot. They just cleared up every opportunity they had, and it shows how difficult that is under this pressure. Because until you've played in the arena, you just don't know what it's going to be like, do you? And I certainly haven't, so I've not experienced the pressure cauldron that it creates.
No, and for England, in a sense, they can only lose from here because they keep coming to these finals as very overwhelming favourites. So if they win, everyone's kind of expecting it. I mean, yes, there's big celebrations, and it's always very well deserved, but they're always kind of there for the taking. There's always some other team that's kind of the second best of the week that's there to challenge them, and if they can just hold it together for what's a relatively short match, the best of 15 frames at this level isn't a long match by any means. So Robert Brady able to take the yellows. It was an open table after Fernandez had missed that ball, needing the spider for the first shot, but wasn't really trying to do too much and didn't need to do too much with the cue ball, so an easy enough pot.
Probably the right attitude to have, not take too many risks, keep things simple.
Yes, I mean, on the whole, I think you would say that is a characteristic of how Robert Brady plays. There were some moments last night that we were really struggling to figure out what he had in mind. He played some quite unusual shots, but he got it to work. I mean, you can never really say it's the wrong shot if it turns out okay, but I think sometimes under the pressure of being out there and only having 60 seconds, people perhaps end up going about things a route that's more difficult than if they had a bit longer to think about it.
I think he's still okay to see the yellow there. Nearly went wrong though.
Just looking at where he needs the cue ball for the shot after this.
Yep, so he's mapped out his route there. Doesn't have to kiss into any balls. If he gets the positioning spot on, then it's a relatively straightforward clearance, but the big challenge here is keeping the white under control.
Yeah, the Irish lads were talking about how the table played. They were all saying they found it difficult. They said it played differently from the practice table, and that they were all finding it difficult. I think the consensus seemed to be that the bed of the table was pretty fast, but the cushions were a bit slower than they were expecting. So the combination of judging those two, they were finding difficult.
I'd imagine that's mainly to do with the TV lights, because that's probably heat to the table, which makes the bed fast, but obviously doesn't have so much of an impact on the cushions because the rubber obviously doesn't change too much.
No, indeed. I mean, a new table and a new cloth, but you can't quite tell. I mean, in fact, the same new table and the same new cloth as the practice table, but as you say, it's in a different room, and that can sometimes be enough. All being played in the same hotel. But this main arena set up in the ballroom, the practice facilities further along the corridor.
Well, he'd like to land reasonably straight on this yellow into the middle bag. Yep, that'll do. He's played that well. He doesn't have to do anything with the white to get onto the next yellow.
Yeah, that was a good shot, because the difference between this yellow being dead straight and having too much angle would be huge. The fact he can just drop it in now makes it a much more straightforward shot.
And it does look like the black goes into both middle pockets. Looks like it goes into the left-hand pocket. Just checking the time, because there's a clock on the just behind him there, so he knows exactly how many seconds he's got left.
So a good steady shot. That needed cueing. It was from quite a tight angle, but able to just drop it in dead weight.
Looks like the Irish have settled far quicker than they did yesterday into this match.
Yeah, and different already. The crowd, as well as just the players, they just sound happier. There's more enthusiasm. It almost felt like both sides. There's a sort of air of desperation even in the cheering from the crowd at moments last night.
It was an energy-sapping match yesterday for both players and spectators. And commentators,
And for yes, and for the commentators. That was my fourth match of the day. Finished it well after midnight last night.
Peter Butterworth needed a few coffees to keep himself going,
Yes,
didn't he?
Delivery of espressos to the commentary box.
So this should be fine. I don't know if he's left himself slightly awkward queuing. If he has, it's a little bit careless, but he should still be fine to get this black in.
Yes, having to queue over the ball just adds an element of tension to what's otherwise an unmissable shot. I think you'll see a big celebration. Perhaps not quite like last night, but...
It is awkward queuing. So this is a little test.
Wow.
It did look like he'd moved a little bit, but fortunately for him, just not quite enough to miss the pot.
Yeah, pushing the ball into the near jaw like that is normally the recipe for disaster, but he just had it enough, well, not too much pace. It was the right pace that it was just able to drop in. That'll be a huge relief. I mean, that kind of thing, if you do all that hard work and then miss the black, is just terrible. But
and now it's a test for England, because all of a sudden they're 2-0 down, first to 8. So it's quite a short match, because it's now over 2 sets, because it's a one-table format. So they're going to have to start getting some frames under the board, on the board even.
Yeah, I mean, this is a different position, as you say, from the one they found themselves in before. I think India had them under a decent amount of pressure yesterday, because they just looked like the kind of team that could do some damage, India.
Well, India, they'd broken dish in the first frame, didn't they? And then they had 2 shots straight off the break in the second one, and they should have won that one. But when England got back to 1-1, then they sort of went 2, 3, 4-1 ahead. All the pressure sort of like disappeared. This time around, Ireland have managed to get 2-0 up. England have had chances in both frames. They could have easily won both frames, both by Carl and also by Dave. So we'll see what Mike does now. And as we all know, as he keeps saying, Mike doesn't really want a tactical frame here, does he? So he wants these balls to open and have a chance for the break and dish. They've opened nicely, but no, nothing down. We've seen a lot of those over the last 2 days, haven't we?
Yeah, and it's a costly thing to do.
So once again, a chance for Ireland. Oh, did something go down?
No, it was Paul Kelly for Ireland was breaking.
That's where I got confused. Okay, perfect chance for Mike King then. The only tricky part in this clearance, really, because this plant looks straightforward, is the black.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, this is probably the ideal frame for Mike King. He's a pretty aggressive player, good at clearing up from this kind of position, and happier doing this than getting involved in a tactical battle. Paul Kelly for Ireland had a difficult day yesterday. It's one of those days where he'd play a good shot and then he played some really loose shots, and it would be so frustrating as a player, because you could see how good a player he was, but he was playing some shots that were just making him look silly. It was just easy misses once he'd played the good shot.
Yeah, he played the tough shots well, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's Paul, wasn't it?
I mean, it was odd. He didn't miss hardly any difficult shots, but he made a real mess of some easy shots.
Oh, he was hoping to get an angle there to be able to pot the red and nudge the black out, but it doesn't appear that he's managed to get that.
Yeah, he wanted to come past that yellow. Well, in fact, I think he wanted to be to the left of the yellow anyway. He didn't really want to be
He
going
might
into
have an
it.
angle. Difficult to tell from here. He has got the angle.
That's a good shot. He did well. He didn't have very much angle to generate that kind of pace whilst maintaining control was impressive. So one more good shot required though. He's quite close to the side cushion here. If he could get his hand on the table and screw back, it would have made it easier. So going up the table first, because this is the one he can cue more easily.
That was lovely straight cueing, that was. Just a little bit short though.
That was always the difficulty playing it that way around. It was going to be hard to get right back for this one in the middle of the table, but as it happens, he's kind of landed on it okay like this. He can just run it down the table.
He'll probably say he planned to play it in the corner pocket anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, in fairness, he's kind of playing for a choice there. I think that's a sensible enough shot to have played. Good quality clearances from Mike King. First visit stuff. Dry break from Paul Kelly proved costly. England's first frame on the board. They now trail Ireland by 1 frame to 2.
And we've now got Shane Thompson breaking for England, and he's going to be playing against David McQuillan.
Yeah, another very experienced campaigner in McQuillan for Ireland. Played his part last night.
He's just trying to find his cue in between those 50 cues there in the corner.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. I mean, they obviously do all look different, but strange situation. You don't normally have them all stacked up like that. See the arena starting to fill up now, particularly on the England side.
And that's what I was saying about the arena, because us pool players, we're just not used to playing in that kind of environment.
No, very different from when we've had all the tables in the room earlier on in the week. Sort of different, louder perhaps between shots with people shouting stuff out, but then it goes dead quiet when you're playing the shot, which you obviously don't get if there are other games going on around you.
Yeah, they've played all week with lots of noise around them all the time, and suddenly it's become like a hush snooker environment, hasn't it? Which creates extra pressure as well, doesn't it? When you can like hear a pin drop, that also creates extra pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I think in many ways having some ambient background noise is easier. When it goes dead silence, you know that everyone in this room and everyone watching it live is looking at you.
So I've got it right this time. Shane's going to break.
Agreed.
And this is probably the most important shot in pool. And the fact that they're now playing on an 8-foot table, it makes it even harder because they haven't had a lot of time to practice the break-off shot. But let's see what Shane does.
Well, it's a big break and a good split, but nothing's gone in.
Trying to break again. But reds are definitely going to be the colour here, with that red just nestled in front of the black over the pocket there. And you can start with a plant because it's an open table, so you can hit the yellow onto the red and nominate there. And all the balls are on there, so fully expect David to have a good go at the clearance here. There's not a lot of challenges for him not to clear up here, I wouldn't say. But we said that a lot of times yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, so he was another one where there were a couple of unorthodox shots. It kind of all came together, but maybe not quite how we'd have seen it playing out. Yeah, very helpful, the fact it was an open table and he was able to play that, the yellow onto the red. So after the break, when nothing's down, you can hit reds or yellows, but now the red's gone down, so that's his colour.
And he's also got the safety of knowing that even if he misses, he's got the black completely covered. So it's a little bit less pressure on him than normally would be to clear up.
We saw rather too many frames like that in the Scotland-Ireland match last night with
Absolutely.
balls in that kind of position. I think we'd be happy for him to get it done in the one visit here.
You had the Tipex out quite a few times, didn't you? You sort of already said, yep, that's going to be a win, and then suddenly, like 2 shots before the end, uncharacteristic misses.
Better so far, looking more composed. The Irish lads today just look a bit more purposeful and a bit more confident. They kind of, when they come to the table, you're seeing them clearing up. Whereas last night, both sides just looked so shaky that it was hard to imagine either side clearing up in the first game.
It's also possibly the fact that both Ireland and Scotland knew that they were very level, and therefore they both had a fantastic chance to get to the World Finals. Whereas this time, Ireland are going into the match as underdogs against England, and that takes a bit of pressure off you as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and how many times have we all done that in pool matches? You look at the draw and you've got what you perceive to be a weaker player in the first round, and you see it as a good opportunity.
Exactly.
And then suddenly you don't turn up for the match. So, good-ish shot there. It would have been easier to be absolutely dead straight on this red. He's now just left this a little bit more delicate, but still should be absolutely fine.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to leave the white anywhere near the cushion, so he'll play it in such a way where he can get his hand on the table. So too short.
Well,
not a disaster, as I said. You know, he had that safety on the left-hand side with the black not going anywhere, but I still expected that to go in.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a disaster, but you've got to clear up from that kind of position. I mean, the frame was unlosable if that red goes in, because the other two are right over the pocket, whereas now, yes, overwhelmingly you'd rather be reds, but stuff can happen if you let your opponent back to the table. It was the previous shot, really. It was just the fact that he'd left himself a bit too much angle, and he played it maybe in a slightly unusual way, trying to play it thin and check it up with side. In a way, maybe he'd have been better just to play it fuller and play a cannon into the yellow that he was heading towards. So a few things for Shane Thompson to think about. We've got the yellow tied up bottom right will obviously be the first issue. I mean, not that he'll be going for the clearance here, but
here behind the yellow in the top there. Oh, has he done enough? I think he must have done. But can he get that red just off the cushion? He's certainly not going to try and swerve and get the red near the black, because he's got the chance of hitting the black there, so that's definitely not an option.
yes, no purpose whatsoever in coming down the left-hand side of the table.
And if he can't have any sort of shot to the red on the right-hand side, he'll either push one of the yellows towards the bottom end of the table to make one of the yellows safe, or just do a little deliberate safety to waste a shot when Shane goes on the table, so he doesn't have two shots anymore.
Needless tension he's putting himself and his teammates through here if he'd have just dropped that ball in.
Absolutely. And that's the key as well. It now creates a bit of extra pressure, and that's the last thing they need after last night.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is kind of symptomatic of last night. This was the kind of thing that was happening, and then we're in a frame that could have been done in 30 seconds, and then suddenly it's going 20 minutes later.
He's played that well.
I mean, this is now a frame that could take quite a while. It's difficult for Shane because it's difficult keeping Dave away from these balls, but it may end up in the kind of game where the yellows get played towards these pockets and it all becomes about how these two bottom pockets play out.
Well, if you look at those two balls on the bottom left-hand side, that looks very familiar to one of the frames you had last night, wasn't it?
It looks scarily familiar. I think I've only just finished counselling from the last one.
And that took about 20 minutes with only 3 balls left on the table.
Well, he's lucky he's got 2 visits because he wasn't playing to miss that one.
Now he's got to look for a snooker again, which isn't too difficult at this stage, because the right-hand red is well and truly covered by 2 yellows, so he's just got to be careful on the left-hand red. But we said that, but even yesterday we saw matches where there's simple snookers, even in Carl's first match, simple snooker, and he managed to leave the black on for Sean Sharkey to pot.
Yes, that was a very surprising shot.
Got a kick on the white there, but hasn't affected it in any way, I don't think.
No, he was trying to play the safety there. He wasn't trying to pot the ball, but I mean, I'm not sure, based on what we've seen, there's any reason for Dave to rush anything here. I think having got himself into this position, he's probably going to have to just grind this out as a tactical frame.
I think we've learnt after yesterday's match not to try and predict what these players are going to do now.
You would assume he'll be knocking this red towards this cluster, but
Or yellow even, yeah.
yellow rather. Sorry.
Not massively committal there.
No, that was a bit tentative. I mean, obviously, the worst thing would be to have knocked the red in, but
Because ideally Shane wants to be moving some of these safe yellows into a more potting area, but at the same time those yellows are helping him get the snookers. So he's just got to work out, you know, what the best way forward is for him.
yeah, there may come a situation where Dave wants to start potting the yellow balls, because although he'll be giving 2 shots away, it's still going to be difficult for Shane to do much. He may feel that reducing Shane's options will be desirable if he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, he just wants to tie up that red fully, because once he's tied up the left-hand pocket, he can start moving the safe balls away from the right-hand side and then go back to the balls that he's put around the left-hand side.
Yeah,
it's very difficult to work with 2 problems at the same time.
Absolutely. Dave's got to be a bit mindful here as well. That he doesn't want Shane to be trying to get a yellow under the black, which is a possibility later on. You could potentially try and pot the red and push the yellow through. I mean, this is just a frame that would be very, very painful to lose for Ireland. It's kind of bonus territory for Shane Thompson. It was a frame that he had basically lost, so if he has to spend half an hour trying to win it, it's just a free roll for him.
Absolutely.
For McQuillan, it's a frame that he should have against his name already.
Maybe even the fact it's going to probably take an extra 20 minutes to win this frame if he wins it, it's going to be an additional bonus for England.
Yeah, well, particularly as they're behind, it's kind of helping them to settle down into the match, whereas if Ireland could run off a few quick frames and almost shock England, that maybe would have been a way of winning this.
And it's these kind of frames that create the pressure. So that's a nice shot, because the red still clearly goes, but it's hard now for Shane to get rid of the yellow there.
Yes, it's a good shot. He was kind of looking at it quite hard, although he wasn't quite happy with the way it turned out. Now, what's Shane thinking about this bottom left-hand corner pocket?
Now, once he's got 3 yellows around there, it's still very easy for him to pot the red. The black does look a little bit tied up now, but he might want to just make it a little bit more tied up before working on the balls on the right-hand side. I think Mike King's sitting on the sidelines thinking, thank God it wasn't me in this frame.
Yes, that last frame was exactly the kind of frame he wanted. So Shane just confirming with the referee that the yellow furthest to the left wasn't touching the cushion. It didn't in fact make any difference because another ball did touch. Well, it's fair to say that the red and the black won't be potted anytime too soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, Dave was aware there that he could probably, Shane could move those 2 top yellows away quite easily, so he's decided just to tie them up a little bit more there.
And they can become kind of confusing situations, these.
Not quite sure, did you hear if he said touching ball or not? He pointed towards it, so I get the impression that he's touching.
Yes, I mean, from that shot, you'd think it must be touching at least one of those 2 yellows, if not both of them. Not sure how much difference that really makes, mind you, from this position.
Played it well.
Yeah, so interesting situation now. That bottom right-hand corner pocket not in playing quite the same way that it was before. It's all about the bottom left.
because Shane knows he's going to need numerous sort of 2 visits to eventually move those yellows out, but he's feeling quite happy where those balls are at the moment compared to where he was 10-15 minutes ago.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so far he's playing the kind of cagey game. I mean, there is a school of thought, not that it's necessarily easy from this position, but he might try to kind of throw the gauntlet down for McQuillan if he got the opportunity.
Now, the reason David did that now is because with any further fouls that Shane does, it would be a foul snooker, which then allows David to have a free ball and nominate the yellow that's on top of the red to pot that red that's currently tied up. And with the black still over the pocket, he's in a good position. So Shane's just got to be a little bit careful that he doesn't do any fouls from now on. Which is easier said than done if the only balls that are left are the ones right on top of that red.
Yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, that's when it may make sense for Dave to start potting the yellows. Again, not necessarily now, but...
I think he'll put this one at the top there.
So, not a hugely tempting position here. 2 shots, but he's going to need a lot more than 2 shots to extricate all these yellows.
Yeah, with these 2 shots, he just wants to move a few of the yellows away from those areas and then maybe move one of the 3, the one on the top one there, away from that little bundle there. Because if it's just the 2 left, you can even look now. If you hit the cushion first from the bottom and up, there's a good chance that he could maybe move both the yellows out. But with that yellow being on the cushion at the moment as well on the side, it's not easy. That's why he's inspecting it closely at the moment.
Good application so far from Shane Thompson. Doesn't look phased by getting into this. Although, as I say, it's sort of helped by the fact it's a kind of free go at this frame. So the position becoming slightly more open now, but still no immediate danger for Dave. That pocket is pretty comprehensively tied up at the moment. Giving the pocket itself a hard look, so looking at rearranging the situation. See, they're quite tightly jammed into the pockets, able to play into them quite firmly. Nothing really seems to move when you hit them. I mean, the red's obviously in front of the black, and I don't think the black goes round, but it's not like any touch on that cluster is automatically going to knock the red in.
No, it looks like there's at least another 2-3 more touches available before that red threatens to drop, doesn't it? As long as it's not too hard. He's looking to see if they jam out by hitting it from there, but I can't see that being the case. See what he's looking to do here. Is he looking to get them out now then?
Couldn't necessarily blame him for having a go, because
it's perfect time because there's a yellow over the bottom right hand bag.
Yeah.
So he just needs to get the 2 yellows out and he's guaranteed on another yellow. Let's have a look. Oh, he's played it well. They did jam out. Played it very well. Just needs that. Oh, he's a bit unlucky there that the yellows landed a bit safe.
Funny, isn't it?
Both of them landed safe in the end, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like that pocket was so well tied up, but the way that previous shot played, when it kind of jammed and nothing moved, you felt that it actually was quite a good spot to jam it all out. It didn't look like anything was in danger of dropping in.
So he's going to look to snooker him now.
And this has completely changed the complexion of the frame.
Or is he looking to cover the bottom pocket? Yeah, snooker.
In fact, I mean, that's perfect as well. Not only has he got him snookered, but he's got the red tied up.
It's amazing how many times you look at balls that are over pocket and you think it's going to drop at one stage and they just jam out automatically, don't they? There's Sasha, the referee. Check and see if it's a total snooker.
We can say
Definitely
fairly
looks
safely
like it
from
here.
that
You can
angle
see
that
that,
it is.
absolutely.
So suddenly from this being a frame that McQuillan pretty much had on the scoreboard to one where he pretty much had tactical control of, it's now one where he's actually chasing.
I think the spectators will be happy that we've saved ourselves a good 20-30 minutes of tip-tap-toe there by what Shane did.
Absolutely, got some chance of finishing the match on schedule.
Oh, that's unlucky.
Wow.
It was very close to the red, but ball in hand's made life a little bit easier for Shane as well now.
How has this frame turned around? I mean, this will be as bad as any frame that was lost last night in terms of throwing the frame away.
It's just that careless second-to-last red that David played that didn't quite reach the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, he had a ball essentially over both corner pockets that he just had to roll in and left the first one of them short. Well, that's a little bit wild. We saw a couple of instances like that last night where...
Identical shot, yeah, they had ball in hand and completely didn't do any benefit from it. You should have done a lot better than that when you've got ball in hand.
Well, I think it was the same situation last night where I tried, not from a different player, it wasn't from Shane, but playing that shot ball in hand, playing it with quite a lot of angle and trying to get position when really, if there's any danger of missing the ball or not leaving it near the pocket, you're probably better just to play it straighter.
In fact, I think it was his opposition. It was David McQuillan who had that shot yesterday.
Yeah, you might well be right. It was down the left-hand side of the table as we look at it.
And even having played a similar shot to that, he had no position on the next shot. At least Shane did look to get position, but...
Yes, I mean, the positional side of the shot was good, but now, I mean, having had 2 shots from that position, I could be pretty disappointed that he's still got 3 balls left on the table. And not even able to sneak a Dave this time. I mean, not that it's a huge issue because just hitting this red doesn't really help.
It's one of these frames now that whichever team loses are going to hurt because both should have won it by now.
Yeah, I mean, previously it was a free roll for England, but with that visit, Shane Thompson had the chance to either win or at least get right back into the frame.
And he's still favourite, but the more chances you give a player to win a frame, eventually he's going to find a way. Whether it's off 2, 3, 4 cushions or a fluke, you're giving him the match chance, aren't you? So if that was a bit faster, he could have fluked the red in the middle pocket.
Yes. Well, sort of good news and bad news there, isn't it? The one saving grace, and the only saving grace, is he's not the black safe, because the 3 yellows are now a formality for Shane.
And they'll both be feeling it. You feel it a lot more in these tactical frames than you do a normal frame.
Well, especially now, they've, as you say, both given away opportunities. They're both going to feel that in order to prove themselves and vindicate themselves with their teammates, they need to find a way of winning. So it's all about the black here. He pots these 2 and then just needs to leave himself as good a shot as he can on the black. A few different options, but all of which are going to be quite presentable, but none of which are going to be a formality, so it just depends which one he likes the look of. So good angle is left.
He's just going to pot it down the rail. He's got the angle to move it, but
yeah,
it could go wrong.
I don't think there's much value in moving it.
If you can get just behind the black down the rail, it's relatively straightforward.
He's got the perfect angle just to drop in virtually straight behind it. So
I'm surprised he left that much of an angle.
Yeah, it felt like he could have dug into the cue ball a bit more than that, but not a bad shot he's left himself still. He's just got to keep absolutely still, cue these. He's missed one down the opposite side rail that was slightly more difficult. Needs to get closer with this one.
He's played it well, straight.
That's a great pass in the end. Now that is a frame that will really hurt Ireland. That was a bad miss from Dave McQuillan that led to that. He played a poor positional shot, getting onto his penultimate red, and left the red short of the pocket.
Ireland should have regained that 2-frame lead, but it's now level pegging to 2 frames apiece.
And this is going to be costly against England. I think Ireland, if they bring their A game, can win this, but I don't think their B game is going to do the job. And at the moment, they're somewhere between the two of them.
Probably a fair score at this stage, I would say, because Carl and Dave made mistakes in the first frame and Dave McQuillan in that one, so 2-all's probably a fair reflection of the match so far. We've now got Lee Kendall for England, and it's going to be Neil Madigan for Ireland to break. Just checking to make sure the balls are touching there.
Yeah, Neil Madigan was one of the more composed Irish players last night. Took out a good clearance in his first visit. Wants to
yeah, he played really well in the first frame, actually. It's one of the few frames that was a joy to watch.
Yes, it was a... I mean, even then, it was a kind of a difficult clearance as it turned out, but he took it well.
Well, he's got a ball down, but as you can see, there's a fair bit of traffic on the top cushion there.
Yeah, that's always the way, isn't it? When you're looking for a sort of quick run out after a tactical frame like that, and then some balls cluster up.
Well, he's potted reds, so he can nominate reds and then just open one of those reds that are tied up at the top there. Try and cover the pocket, possibly. Still mean one of the reds would be tied in there. Just needs to make sure that the yellow doesn't pop out. Otherwise all the yellows go when Lee goes on the table. So we might be opting for yellows here. Yes.
So what does he want to do here? Does he just want to take what he's got and cover the top right-hand corner, or is he going to...
Yeah, he wants to take control of the frame straight away, really, doesn't he? Because even if he had an angle to develop his tricky yellow at the top, there's no guarantees it'll come out, because it's well contained with the 2 reds. Double kiss would leave it in there.
Yeah. Now what's he left here? Has he left a big pocket for this
He has.
plant along the top cushion? It was actually quite a difficult pocket to cover from where he was, and I think he was trying particularly hard to make sure that he didn't leave a path for the red that's top left as we look at it at the moment. Well, interestingly...
30 seconds.
Well, see what Lee's thinking. The only trouble with this is that he's now going to give Neil an opportunity to pot a yellow and then properly cover that pocket.
Oh, something put him off there.
Yeah, he's done the right thing. Stand up and start again. Looking at the clock, still got time to play this shot.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Whatever put him off, that just put him off his stride a little bit there.
Yeah, now that could be costly, because if he'd have got that in, he could have properly covered the top right-hand corner pocket from where he was. And that's what he needed to do. Now, quite a few options for Lee, actually, as to how he goes about this.
To be fair, if you wanted anyone from the England team to play these kind of frames, I think you'd choose Lee, wouldn't you?
He certainly would.
He's renowned for these type of frames.
This is the 25th year of this tournament, and Lee's been here for the lot, I think. So, made a little bit of a mess of his last couple of shots. Didn't get the pocket quite covered right and didn't quite pot the board. He's just been a few millimetres away with both of the last shots. It's led to the situation now where he's not in such a good tactical position. So, played the deliberate foul. Now, this is a bold move, I think. If that top right-hand corner pocket is still a big pocket for the plant, I don't know whether it's been moved enough. There are going to be quite a lot of options for Lee. It's also hard to tell from here. Yeah, it looks like... Yeah, that yellow has just been moved out a bit. Maybe that's not quite...
It's a big pocket. Played it well. Played it very well.
He didn't even need a big pocket.
Didn't need the big pocket there, did he?
Well, I think you've got to say that's the wrong shot from Neil. I mean, if you're leaving that, because, I mean, Lee actually played a great shot to come off the cushion to hit that, but he didn't necessarily even have to do that. He could have gone after some other balls first and then come back to that later on, but he's still now got the 2 visits. The other 3 reds all go. I think the red does go to the left centre. It just sneaks past that yellow. So it's only really the black that's tied up. And not hugely tied up either. It won't be difficult to get to.
Using every millimetre of that pocket.
Yeah, it wasn't he just, but played at that pace, knew that it would drop as long as he put it in the right area. I think it's the right approach to lay down the gauntlet early on if you're in this kind of situation, but I think what Neil misjudged there was leaving that plant along the top cushion. I think if he was going to play a deliberate foul, he needed to do it in such a way that either didn't leave that shot or that somehow moved the yellow a bit further out.
Yeah, so he's in a good position here with 2 visits left. He's keeping the 2 for the black, which is the right thing to do.
30 seconds.
So, as we said at the beginning, this is the man you want for a tactical frame. And it turned out that he didn't have to play too many tactical shots before he was given this opportunity. Well, in fact, he could post it.
Absolutely. He was happy with that.
Well, a moment ago, it looked like we were going to be chalking 3-1 up on our scoreboard to Ireland. They lost the frame with Dave McQuillan that they really shouldn't have done, and then Lee Kendall given that opportunity. So, in fact, it's England that's ahead for the first time in this match. They lost the first 2, but they've won the next 3 and now lead Ireland by 3 frames to 2.
Which means Ireland need to win the last 2 if they want to go into the interval with a lead. At this stage, I think they'll be thinking, just make sure we win at least one of the 2, because the last thing they want to do is go into the interval 5-2 down. 4-3 down's no disaster. But yeah, as you said, literally not long ago, they were looking at a 3-1 lead, and now they're staring a slightly different game.
And of their own making, you'd have to say. Just a reminder flashing up there, the ladies' singles final, 2 o'clock today. Amy Beecham against Kerry Griffiths. Expecting a good, quick, fast-flowing match there. And then the men's singles final, the showpiece event of this tournament, Phil Harrison against Mick Hill, gets underway at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Live coverage throughout both of those. Still plenty of pool left in this match first, though. 5 frames played of a possible 15. Up next, we've got Jack Popel of England to break. His opponent, Matt O'Hara. O'Hara, I would say, was one of the best, if not the best, of the Irish team last night. And a match where a number of them looked kind of at sea. Matt looked pretty composed and seemed to be one of the ones that was kind of just playing a normal game still. The black ball down of Popel's break, so that will be a void break. We'll be starting again.
It's the second time we've seen that in the last 2 days, isn't it?
Yeah, the last time we saw it, the player had a good first break, but potted the black, and then had a dry second break. So
Absolutely.
Jack will be hoping not to do that.
And after this match, the last match before the break is Ben Flack against Pat O'Leary.
Yeah, that will certainly be an important last frame. Whatever happens in this one, it's going to be very important for Ireland to at least reach 3. Ideally, of course, they'd like to go ahead and win 4, but they definitely don't want to find themselves 5-2 down, having been 2-0 up. So, got to win one of the next 2.
Let's see how Jack does this time now. Yeah, ball down. It's a nice spread of balls as well.
Yeah, it's a good break, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, the key moment of this first set is definitely that misread by David McQuillan to go 3-1 up.
Well, we said at the time, it's one of those things where when he misses it, it doesn't look that bad. It looked like he was still in huge control of that frame, but 20 minutes later, he wasn't, and that's the kind of thing that happens. If you let your opponent back in, you just introduce some variability that there doesn't need to be. Just get those 3 balls potted, back sitting in your chair, and the frame's on the scoreboard. Reds, of course, nominated from Popel. He'd potted a yellow off the break, but no value in going for yellows with the one tied up on the right-hand side, and the reds generally nearer the pockets.
There's not really an awkward red there, is there? There's that one on the left-hand cushion, but it's not really too difficult to get to.
No, this is very much the kind of position he's going to be expecting and backing himself to clear up from. This has been the stock in trade of the England team for a very long time. They get opportunities like this and they get the job done in one visit. His balls also link up quite well. He can take this one top right and just wants to get the cue ball back somewhere in the middle of the table.
Yeah, that middle one's ideal for the transition from the top side of the table down to the bottom end.
Yeah, absolutely. And then
from there, he may want to try and get onto that one that's on the left-hand cushion, but we'll see what he decides. There's lots of different routes he could take. He's just got to choose the one that he feels most comfortable with.
Just needs to avoid this yellow and coming off the right-hand side cushion. And that's absolutely perfect. Got a nice angle to come down the table for a choice of reds.
He's got a big area to play in as well, hasn't he? The yellows aren't anywhere in the way. It's all about cue ball control.
Yeah, and so far looking very composed, as you'd expect.
The route planning so far in this match has been far more logical than last night, I believe, isn't it? From what I saw.
Just a bit. I felt like we were watching a different game last night.
Oh, he's gone into that too much. He's okay. Sure, it's not the way he meant to play it, but...
No, he's come below these reds when he was trying to come above them. He's been relatively fortunate. I mean, I think he was always going to leave some kind of shot unless he got very unlucky. He's actually been quite fortunate to leave a couple of options here still.
Yeah, he looked at the long red, but that's definitely not the option. Just needs to check out the cue, which always makes it a little bit harder. And that's exactly why he missed it.
Yeah, I mean, it was harder jacking up like that. That was a surprising miss, though, because
he did seem to just rush it a bit at the end. I don't know how much time he had left, but he had a good look and then sort of got straight down and played the shot.
That's a very frustrating thing to do. That's all borne out from the slightly loose positional shot. He had quite a big area to land in. Just got into the cue ball too much, ended up below the ball he was playing rather than above it.
No, this is a perfect chance now for Ireland to capitalise on an England miss like they did in the first 2 frames. They haven't been so successful in the previous frames. Yeah, as soon as he jacked up, I was thinking, not sure he's going to get this, and that's a reprieve for Jack straight away.
That's a massive let-off.
And he was losing the white a little bit there as well. That's his main concern.
I mean,
I think
really
he had other options as well, so he should have really looked at the other option and just played the safer one.
Yeah, I mean, really, to be straight back at the table with not a single ball potted after the miss that Jack Popel played.
That is when you've got to capitalise on players' misses more, because then it hurts even more for that player that's missed. Jack's literally only had about 20 seconds to think about that miss, and now he's back on the table and he's forgotten about it.
Well, he's done his best to make life difficult for himself there, hasn't he?
Now has he got the angle to just punch it off the bottom cushion and get behind that red? Doesn't look too happy there, does he?
Well, I was going to say, with O'Hara's shot, it's kind of the England effect. When you're playing such a good team, you just know that one miss can be a bad thing, and it just adds that extra pressure. But if they're going to win the world title, it doesn't really matter who you're playing. You've just got to take the opportunities.
But against England, you don't normally expect to get 2 bites at the cherry, but he may well do here.
I mean, it was a strange situation there. Popel had a very easy opening shot. It was just a slightly awkward position that
just playing a containing safety. Oh.
Well, that's gone badly wrong. Having not got prime position, he at least needed to make the frame secure. He's now turned over the table with the cue ball right in the middle.
Now, if I was Matt now, I'd be going for the clearance, because they're all there. As long as he keeps the white under control, not give Jack a chance to get back on the table. But we'll see what his mindset is, if it's just to try and find 2 visits or... But there's no real easy way of getting snookers either, so I think he's forced to go for it.
Yeah, and he doesn't really need 2 visits. I'm sure he'd like them, but I think when you're afforded a decent opportunity, you're better just to take it. Still, position, he doesn't look absolutely on top of this still, does he? He's kind of in good position, but you can see he's going to need to retain a good cue ball. The one on the right-hand side cushion and the one in the middle of the baulk cushion are both quite easy pots, but you want to be somewhere near them. You don't want to be playing them from too much distance. Now you see, is this the right shot? What's he got in mind here?
Yeah, he came across that slightly.
Well, okay.
He knew he played it as a shot to nothing, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, we couldn't really see from where his body was, but he has been able to play as a shot for nothing. It felt, as he was getting down for that was a shot that he was hoping to pot rather than expecting to pot. That, the way this game's gone, that was not 100% pot by any means, but to be fair to him, he's got a good cue ball, and actually if it had gone in, he'd have been nice, and if it doesn't go in, he's got this quite good position, so you can't disagree with that shot necessarily. So, interesting one here. Snookered in the sense that you can't go to the sides of these yellows, but the referee, Sasha Gauci, just looking at whether there's a very unlikely gap through the middle. I mean, I don't
looks like there is, actually. I don't know, looking from there, it looks like it does pass.
Yes, I mean, that's the value of using the second cue ball to line it up, because that gives you a slightly better idea. Well, in fact, this is a strange game. If you're just tuning in now, you wonder what on earth we're playing. So, 3 cue balls. The one nearest the baulk cushion is the cue ball. These other 2 are just being used to line the shot. That's not quite straight,
is it?
It's
not quite in line, is it?
I don't think it counts as a shot you can play if you've got to masse the ball round the gap. I mean,
it does make a difference whether it's total or not, because Jack does have the option. It's a very difficult shot, but just to lay a snooker behind the red by coming off the bottom cushion.
Yes, I mean, I think the difference is more for that reason. I don't think Jack's going to be playing. If the gap is as tight as it appears to be, it's hard to imagine he's going to be able to play the cue ball through it. So it's more just the question of whether it's a total snooker or not.
Definitely looks like it passes from here, though, doesn't it? But you can't tell unless you're right underneath it.
Yeah, I mean,
but from being just above angle, it does look like it passes.
Yeah, I don't know if we can look from the overhead angle whether that will shed
That's
any
all
more
gone
light.
now. Couldn't hear what he said there.
Yeah, I mean, that again makes it look like there's a gap, doesn't it? I mean, actually...
Either way, I'd be amazed if he played for that gap.
Yeah,
just actually knowing if it was a total snooker or not.
Completely. It would be a great result if he's left this gap and it's not a total snooker.
So he's looking at the option of actually coming off one cushion and trying to put that bottom red into the bottom right-hand cushion. I think he hasn't got a lot of options, really, because all those yellows are nicely in the open, aren't they? No, not even close on that one.
No, that wasn't close, was it?
Yes, but the black's slightly safer, but he's also left him 2 visits. Yeah, he was surprised by that.
Yeah, he's kind of disgusted by that. That's the kind of shot that it's quite easy to play on a new table where the cushion just slides slightly more than you're expecting off the first cushion.
Well, I spoke to Matt Brannan yesterday after the match, and he was sort of saying that the cushions weren't reacting as he was expecting them to. So maybe it's just taken a few days for these cushions to embed properly.
And I think this is a difficulty of playing this one-frame format in the team competition, because there were less of these problems in all 3 of the singles matches that we've streamed over the last few days. 2 have been played on this table, but then the players have had a bit longer to adjust to it. So generous encouragement being offered from the Irish bench. And rightly so, you want to keep your man buoyed up.
So he had a perfect angle there to just nestle behind this one down the cushion. Wants to screw back about sort of half a foot, leave himself a little angle just to roll that yellow into the corner bag and land just behind the black. And still 2 shots in the black, which he probably won't need. So an important frame to Ireland, and they've done well here.
Yeah, he has done well here. I said before the frame I thought he was one of their steadier players yesterday. He then slightly let me down with that loose miss early on, but he's made amends for it here.
So back to level peggings, 3 apiece.
And from a neutral perspective, that's what we want to see. I think if England were to get too big a lead, the match could all be over. 3-all, still very much back in it.
So it's a big frame before the 15-minute interval. Whoever wins this, that team will feel a lot more comfortable going into the interval.
Yes, definitely. I think whoever's behind will actually be quite annoyed because they've both had chances and it's been a slightly scrappy match. Like Ireland have had the more obvious chances to go ahead, but England, I think, will generally be disappointed that they're not holding a lead already.
Absolutely.
There aren't many matches where after 6 frames they haven't got ahead.
You can see there in the corner there, Steve Mills with the England team, the England manager. He's been the England manager there for now the last 7 years. He was telling me the other day that he feels this is probably the strongest squad he's ever had the pleasure to manage. There he is, speaking to Lee Kendall, talking about tactics as to what he's going to do, what should have been done.
Yeah,
there's Gavin Lomax just next to him on the left-hand side, who's watching, hoping that he might get on in the second set, because currently he's on the substitute bench.
Yeah, based on what happened yesterday, that may be a long shot for him. Steve Mills kept the same line-up for the second half of the match in the semi-final and just brought Rob Warne in as the one extra player. I mean, it doesn't really matter in truth which of the subs he brings in. Rob Warne, Gavin Lomax and Aaron Davies are all high calibre players, will all do a job. Ben Flack yesterday had one of the biggest let-offs we saw in the semi-final. Steve Singh for India missed a very unexpected black, having made a great clearance. He'd done all the hard work and then somewhat quit on the black. And he left Ben Flack a monster difficult opening ball, which he knocked in and then cleared up.
Yeah, he had a long red off the cushion, didn't he? So Played very well there. And I spoke to Steve Singh afterwards, and he said, yeah, he should have just punched it in. Doesn't know why he didn't, but that's just the pressure of the occasion, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're sort of thinking, well, I don't want to miss it by too much, but it was almost like he had some thought of missing it in his mind as he played it. He sort of, like he might be thinking where the cue ball was going or where the black was going to stay if he'd missed it, but he shouldn't have been thinking any of those things. A shame, because he played so well. He played a great plant to open the game up, and then just to hand it away like that. But it was an example of the kind of form that Ben Flack can be in when given these opportunities. This is a more straightforward opportunity than that one he took out yesterday, but he'll be hoping for a similar outcome.
Now, the one thing that impresses me with Ben massively is no matter what shot he plays, he does exactly the same pre-shot routine, even if it's just a straight black over the pocket. Most of us will just go down and knock it, but he does exactly the same routine. And I did ask him, do you practice like that as well, or do you play differently practice? He said, no, I'll do exactly the same in practice, because that way I'll never get into any bad habits.
Yeah, I mean, that's an exceptional example and extremely hard to do, particularly the practicing the same way. I think most of us probably end up playing quicker in practice just because you're not under any pressure. It sort of doesn't matter, or it feels like it doesn't matter, but that's not really the way to do it. If you want to compete at this kind of level, you need to have a style that can be replicated under pressure.
And he doesn't even panic when there's only about sort of 15 seconds left. It's not as if he rushes there. I've never known any other player to be like that, to be fair, so I've always been impressed by that. Because that's the one thing you get taught when you do coaching. You just have the same routine every time. Because that's the one thing that goes under pressure, isn't it? You suddenly rush a shot without thinking.
Yeah, and it serves him very well for this kind of format. This is why he's been in the England team for so long and so good. He's also got a very conventional technique. You see there, looking down his cueing arm. He's got everything lined up in the right place. He doesn't have any idiosyncrasies in terms of sort of twitching around or coming from an off-straight position.
This could be just what England ordered here. Nice dish after the break to go 4-3 up into the interval. If it does happen, I don't think the Irish will be too disappointed, because it's not as if they've had any chances in this frame.
No, I think in a way the trouble might be that they'll almost be happy with a 4-3 result, which is sort of right, but I think it's sort of not right. I think they needed to press on if they're going to win this from where they were early doors.
Absolutely. And Ireland have got a chance to put extra pressure on England that no other team has managed to do so in this competition. So even if Ben does clear up here, the first few frames of the second set are going to be key to this final.
And it's very different watching Ben clear up here. You kind of mentally chalking this up. You're not really seeing a problem. I mean, they're in fact fairly straightforward, these last three balls, but you're just not seeing him doing anything unusual or out of turn. You just expect him to get them, whereas there's been a couple of moments with the Irish guys where they've looked like they could get them, but you're just not 100% sure they're going to.
Yeah. And also there is pressure on England because they're always the outstanding favourites of each tournament, but in the last 3 years there's been 3 different winners: Morocco, Australia and England. So
yeah,
it's not as if England have won the last 3 on the trot and just going to keep winning.
No, I mean, they've been very sporting about those two, and they've faced teams that have played very well against them the 2 years that they've lost, but their record before that, they were winning more than 1 in 3 finals, and to sort of get down to that isn't something they want to be doing. So I think they're going to be particularly focused this year, and especially the point about having a good team this year.
Yeah.
If you turn up knowing you've got a good squad, you want to capitalise on that.
Well, Ben's taken these very well. Never lost a white ball at all. All the shots look very simple, but that's mainly because his white ball was under perfect control.
Absolutely textbook.
So there we go, guys. We're at the interval. It's about 15 minutes, and England going to it 4-3, and we'll see you when the game restarts. Welcome back and welcome to the second set now. So England currently leading by 4 frames to 3, and we've got Mike King breaking against Sean Sharkey. And just what Sean Sharkey wanted to see, a nice dry break. Now if he can get Ireland back to 4-all, I think the momentum may well switch to Ireland, so this is a key frame to see what happens here. Just got the team sheet here, so let's see if there's been any changes. Looks like both Gavin Lomax and Rob Warne have come into the second set, which, looking at the details, Jack Popel's now on the subs bench. And for Ireland, they've brought in Geroida Gorman. And that's the only change. So just to remind you, this is first to 8 wins. Now I think the Irish will feel they've got a fantastic opportunity to bring the title back home to Ireland again. But having looked at their group huddles during the break from a distance, they both seem really reasonably positive at this stage. Now Sean just missed that down the cushion. I think he might have left enough gap for that red to be able to open that pocket, because it's also covering the red on the bottom cushion. He did, but if Sean can find a way of potting a ball here, he may well have an opportunity. That's a great double to start off with. So the Irish are definitely playing with a lot more freedom than they were last night. It's been a completely different type of match to last night. Both teams have missed pots, but it's nothing compared to what we have seen in the past.
30 seconds.
And I'm rejoined in the commentary box with Mark now. Hi, Mark.
Hi, how are we doing? So still the first frame back.
Yeah. Both had a small opportunity to go for the clearance first, not massive ones, but Sean's played some cracking shots here to set up this chance to clear up now. Just got to make sure he finds that gap to get perfect onto the yellow. As I said, this is a key frame final and get back to 4-all, because if they can get themselves back to 4-all, you sort of get the feeling that the momentum might change towards the Irish. So it's a key moment in the match, this one.
Yeah, definitely. And for Sean, he's been doing so well all week. He wants to keep that going in the team competition.
That's a bonus, you can see that one.
Yeah, he's done well there. You can see this one over the right middle. Easy position onto the black. They were 2-0 up and saw their league pegged back, but Ireland are back in this, 4-all.
That's the one thing that's always impressed me with the Irish team is their team spirit. And not only they've always had good team spirit, but they seem to be like a pack of wolves, is what I say to my Belgian teammates. Wherever you see them, they're just always as a team. A lot of the other teams, you know, you sort of get 4 of them together, the other 4 together, and sort of like then meet up before the match. But the Irish have always stayed really close, and that's always been the case over the years.
And it always feels genuinely like they want all their teammates to do well. Occasionally in teams, people are vying for spots and there's some individual competitiveness with each other, whereas with the Irish, it feels like it's all about the team doing well. It doesn't matter if you have a good day, a bad day, so long as the team wins. And that's exactly what this tournament is all about. We have a singles event as well. People prove themselves individually, but this is a team competition, and that's what we want to see. And this guy epitomises it, Robert Brady.
Absolutely.
Can sometimes seem quite quiet when you first meet him, but you see the passion when he's celebrating the wins with his teammates.
This is Gavin Lomax playing. Now, he's not actually played in the semi-final or final before, so he's now been brought in because they've done 2 changes. They've added Rob Warne in, but they've actually switched Gavin Lomax with Jack Pople. So Gavin's going to look forward to having his first chance. He's hoping it's not going to be a break and dish now and then not have a chance to put his hand on the table.
And it's nice for as many people as possible to get an appearance in the final, although it's a squad competition and they can still say they're part of that squad. You don't really feel like you've necessarily deserved to be celebrating the win unless you've actually played in the match itself.
But actually, if you look at the Reds, they're looking pretty good. And the Blacks in the open as well. So Gavin's going to be praying here a bit that he gets an opportunity.
Yeah, this will be an interesting test because this is basically the thing that Ireland haven't done enough of. It's these kind of first visit clearances. They've handled themselves well in some of the matches that have, or some of the frames that have become more drawn out, but they've looked the less likely of the 2 teams to get the job done in one go. This would be a good opportunity and an opportunity to go ahead for the first time in quite a few frames.
This is the key shot to the frame. This is going to be the chance that Gavin has possibly of getting back to the table, because if Robert Brady gets this in, then I think it's frame over.
Yeah,
this is a tough pot.
This is a very tough pot, though, under the pressure he's under. Oh, that's a cracking shot.
We weren't seeing that yesterday, were we?
No, I mean, that was a really good quality pot. That would grace any individual final.
And I think the big difference in the mentality is yesterday they didn't want to lose the semi-final, and now the way they're playing at the moment is they want to become world champions.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
That positive mentality that's making a complete difference to this game.
Well, they've worked hard for the last 10 days to get to this point. This is their opportunity.
30 seconds.
And this final's being watched all over the world. I've got a couple of friends in France who play for France that are watching this, and Albania. So hello to Jon and Victor. Salut Jon et Victor. Bon appétit.
Yeah, it was nice to see both viewers from all around the world and players travelling over here.
30 seconds.
Had some good French teams in the past. I don't think we have any playing this year, did we? But
Again, a fantastic shot there.
yeah, he's taking these really well.
No, sadly, due to financial constraints, the French couldn't bring a team this year. So hopefully that'll be different next year. Belgium, unfortunately, we haven't done so for about 20 odd years. We got close this year, but unfortunately not quite. So we'll try again next year to bring a team to the World Championships.
It's going to be a one-man band. You leading the way?
I don't want it to be a one-man band again. Ooh.
Well,
He ran out of position
I was
as well
going
on
to say,
that
if you
shot.
want an example of how badly he's hit that, look at where the cue balls ended up. So Gavin Lomax does get his chance.
Yep.
Not a bad one. I mean, it's a little tricky to get started with this. I mean, obviously there's a ball he can pop, but it's hard to sort of get in and amongst them immediately from here.
He's left with all good cueing on that easy starter yellow at the top to try and get better position on the other yellows. So that's why he's decided against that. And he got forced into that, but he played it very well.
Yeah, that was a
Now,
good
how's his
shot.
luck on this one? It looks like a couple of yellows go into the middle pocket. Certainly, it seems like he'd be able to clip the one that's near the blue spot. And he's also got a view to that top one anyway, so he's definitely got options here. That was a brave shot there, but I don't think he had many options there, really, so...
No, and he played it because he'd been thinking about it for a while. He ended up playing it quite quickly, but it was a spectacular shot in the end. Now this is much better. He's had a couple of tricky ones, but now he's in good position.
He's been waiting 48 hours to play, bless him.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough this. You can't really bring a smaller squad when you're England because you've got so many good players that you want to give an opportunity to, but equally, you can't play everyone at once.
I think any team would like to have Gavin Lomax on their subs bench to bring in.
Yeah, well, I mean, pretty hard to think of a team where he wouldn't be in the first 3 or 4, never mind the starting lineup.
Played it well. Nice kiss there. So again, this is all about cue ball control because all the 4 balls left are nicely out in the open. Just needs to get the right angle. As little white ball movement as possible.
An all too familiar tale for Ireland. In first, and Robert Brady had played such a good first difficult ball to get that clearance going. To then
He looked all set, didn't he?
end the way he did.
Just that one shot. But they're hanging in well now.
Yeah, I mean, they're making a fight of it, and really, if they'd have held themselves together there, they'd have been ahead again. This has been good from Gavin Lomax, though. One chance. Didn't play in the semi-final, didn't play in the first session of this final. This is his first opportunity, and so far...
Taking them well so far. He just needs one more good shot.
I was going to say, I hope we're not cursing him, because he doesn't look too happy with this positional
We've
shot.
had a few commentators' curses.
Yeah, it's just...
Probably landed a little bit straighter than he would have wanted on that one.
Yeah, but it's just like, it's kind of the worst case, because if he had more angle or straighter, it would be okay.
Yeah.
No choice
So
but
he's
to run
opted
away.
to not take any risks and give himself a shot on the black, which is a wise shot to play.
Yeah, it is, and actually we haven't seen enough of that. There've been a few moments where people have over-elaborated the positional shot and messed it up. Whereas,
This is a tough pot because he's near the cushion as well.
yeah, they're hard to pick these angles out. Although it's sort of quite an open pocket, they're just not easy, these shots.
He's digging them down.
Oh, he thinks he's going to hit
Makes
the
it a
red as
lot
well, so
harder.
he's had to dig in.
Oh,
Oh, that's
what
a fantastic shot.
What a shot.
What a shot from Gavin Lomax. One frame on the board. Fantastic.
Steve Mills will be thinking, why didn't I put him in yesterday and straight at the beginning of the match now? What a great clearance there by Gavin Lomax.
That was a very good quality black, wasn't it?
So now Carl Sutton's going to break for England against Geroid O'Gorman, who's just come in from the bench. So Ireland are going to hope that he has the same impact that Gavin Lomax just did for England, just coming off the bench. And that is the important about having sort of reserves in a team, that you can bring strong players in to help change the momentum of a match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now England have just done that with Gavin Lomax, so let's hope Ireland can do the same. Now Carl, yesterday when he had the break, he broke and dished. He'll be hoping for exactly the same this time, especially after that missed yellow in his first frame, because it looked like he was like all set to win that first frame of the match, and then he just missed that yellow in the middle pocket. I think he tried to pinch and angle too much.
Yes, he did. He had one difficult ball that he was trying to get onto, but he'd been let in by Sean Sharkey and then ended up handing the table straight back.
And we apologise to any Irish fans if we've mispronounced Geroid's name.
I shall be referring to him as O'Gorman throughout this frame to avoid any possible risk.
Well, Pete Butterworth yesterday just called him Jerry. That might be
Yeah.
a safer option, actually. Yeah, he wanted to pot both of them to give himself an option. And unfortunately, that's the worst case scenario now. He's on yellows, and that red is covering those three yellows now.
Yes, that's an unusual position to get into, but
Yeah. It was a nice positive shot, because that was a very good way to start if both of them did go in.
ended up covering the pocket for his opponent in his first shot. So Carl Sutton with the knowledge that he'll be coming back to the table.
Nothing wrong with a positive attitude. Just unfortunately didn't work for him that time.
No, absolutely. You'd rather it went wrong trying to play a positive shot than playing something negative. Yes, I mean, he's getting a lot of praise from his teammates, and rightly so, because he's got Carl tight in behind this yellow.
Still got the issue of those three yellows being safe at the moment.
Yes, and as a result of that, Carl's got no interest in getting out of this snooker.
Yeah,
Oh, well, in
he
fact,
just
he
had
could.
enough gap there, yeah.
I apologise, I thought he was having to play a deliberate foul. He was touching that yellow, but in fact he'd left the gap behind it, which didn't remotely look from this camera angle like that was the case. So, able to escape from the snooker. So, Geroid's still got the same problem. He's got his three yellows tied up. He can play one of them down the table over the bottom right-hand corner if he wants it.
But all the reds go at the moment, so he's going to have to try and prevent Carl going for a clearance at this stage. That's going to be his number one priority.
30 seconds.
This is looking good.
He's played that well.
Yeah, he's played that right. We've seen a few people make a mess of shots down the cushions, particularly ones where they've been trying to pot them, end up miles away, but that one was judged well.
He also made sure he hit the cushion well early so that it didn't drop in, because that would have put him in a big predicament.
So, a few open balls for Carl, and one difficult one.
I'd still say it's advantage Carl at this stage, because there's only that one tricky red, whereas there's still two tricky yellows at the top there. And if Carl can move that tricky red, he's in a good position.
Yes, the only difficulty is it's quite well protected, so it's not that easy to get to. But yes, you're absolutely right. The priority is to try to get it out. So straight after it, as you'd expect. Electing for the deliberate foul,
Played it
concluding
well.
that as long as he didn't leave Gerard a pot on his first yellow, he was going to have to waste the shot, and then he'll still have the problem of the 2 at the top of the table.
And trying to put 2 balls in one go like Geroid did in the first shot, it's not something that we practice as players.
No, and I mean, actually, there's an art form to it. I mean, it's not just luck, and it's definitely not just hitting it hard. It's hitting it very straight.
Straight, absolutely. So it looks like you can try and retake this pocket down the bottom right-hand side.
Yeah, he needs
Definitely
to.
doesn't want the yellow to drop. So it has dropped.
Yeah, it was always going to be a bit tricky, that, because having to play it off the red, it was hard to play it at the pace where it would just stop dead. He didn't really have anything to rest it against. This is a real problem now, because you can see the position of all the reds. No prizes for saying who's favourite in this frame at the moment. It's not the man that's at the table.
30 seconds.
And this is where having the 60 seconds per shot puts additional pressure on you, because you have to make a quick decision. So is he going to try and tie up the black here? And pot the yellow. That's unlucky, because all he was trying to do is just tie up the black there. Now he's put himself in yet another predicament, and unfortunately the black still goes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, in fact, in any event, he hadn't tied the black up. Yeah, now his options are much more limited because he's got no yellows near him, so he's got to play a table length shot even to hit one.
Yeah, he's got to try and sort of cover one of the reds with his yellows and just try and bide himself a bit of time, because that black is easily gettable with that top red in the top right hand pocket for Carl.
Yeah, if he was somewhere else, covering the black would be preferable, but you can't be doing that from here.
You can see plenty of people watching this final. And following this final at 2 o'clock will be the ladies singles final between Amy Beecham and Kerry Griffiths.
Yeah, we should be in for a good final there. Watched a bit of both of those semi-finals a couple of days back.
He's unlucky there.
Yes, I mean, that was real desperation territory. He
Well, he
had
tried
very
to
few
sort
options.
of cannon off the right-hander white to then sort of hit onto the yellow that was slightly further left and try and put it that way. He didn't really have many options. He wasn't far away from that, but then after that, he managed to, unfortunately, a red drop in as well. So Carl's got that extra security of having that second visit if he needs it, which I don't think he will do.
He won't, no.
So Gero's been a bit unlucky in quite a few moments in this frame, hasn't he? Right from the first shot.
Yes, yes, he sort of played the right shots and they've not turned out right for him. Going to be a few what-ifs as he walks away from the table.
Oh, just. Thought we'd missed that for a second. But for the first time, England have now pulled 2 frames clear. Just when Ireland had pulled back to 4-all, England have won 2 on the trot and goes 6-4 up, only needing 2 more to win.
Yeah, and starting to look quite ominous now, England.
It does mean that Ireland need
well.
to win 4-1 from here. That's the task that the Irish have got at this stage.
They've simply got to be more clinical. Their good shots have been fine, but there've been too many loose ones. It's been better than last night. It's been a much steadier performance with a lot more highlights, but still not been quite the clinical standard that they were going to need to produce to beat England. England just provide a kind of same standard all the time, and it's very good. So if you're going to beat them, you've really got to turn up for the match. So first real look at Paul Kelly. He didn't have much of a go in the first session. He broke dry and Mike King cleared up. So he's having a second break, but wants a different result from last time.
He's broke dry again.
Yes, it's a different result only in so much as it's not quite as easy a clearance as last time, but it's not a whole lot worse.
Yellows are looking reasonably good.
Well, that was
I think he wanted to kiss full ball on that red.
Yeah, that was a touch off the side he wasn't looking for. Ruined the positional side of the shot.
So it gives Paul Kelly a ray of hope to finally get his hand on the table in this final.
Yes, and I mean, that's really all you can ask for. You can't quite control what happens, but you want to at least have an opportunity. Well, hand on the side of the table at least.
Yeah.
And not the most appealing opening position he's going to be facing.
Now, does that red go in the top right-hand corner? It clearly did. Oh. But he was quite a way out on that one, and as a result of that, a bit unlucky, but had he got the pot? So there's an unforced error there, definitely.
How costly is that? I mean, this is the kind of thing they can't do. Dave makes a slight positional mistake, turns the table back over, then not only is he invited back to the table, but it's in a more open position, and he's got two shots.
Now, Dave's missed the cannon there, because he's trying to push that yellow over the middle pocket, which makes it a little bit harder, but then he's got two shots, so he can just use that shot to just set himself up, because all the other balls are looking pretty inviting at this stage. Played it well. Knew he was going to be on the yellow in the middle pocket.
Yeah, now this is real danger territory for Ireland. They're on the brink of going 7-4 behind in a race to 8. Dave Fernandez, 3 balls left and 2 visits in which to clear them. 3 balls in the black, I should say.
And for the second frame in a row, an England player's got just a few balls to go with two visits left. That's safety net. There he's gone a little bit further than he wanted to as well.
Yeah, the only thing that can go wrong here is it's not going to be able to get perfectly on this last yellow and then position on the black. If he didn't have 2 shots, you could see there being a lifeline here for Ireland. But
I think he'd like to get the 2 shots for the black, but if he needs it for the yellow, he's not going to be too worried. Oh, he's played it great there. Plenty of left-hand side now, so he should have 2 shots on the black now. So he ideally wants to leave the white probably around the blue spot, I'd say. Just leave himself a thin shot on the black, and if it goes over the pocket, he's guaranteed with a second shot to pot it.
Yeah, no need to get too clever. There's been no point at all risking sneakering yourself here. You just need a shot on the black when you've still got the 2 visits to pot it in.
Keep moving.
Well,
that's why I said it needed to be around the blue spot. I think he might just be okay.
It's not going to necessarily be a disaster, even if it is a snooker.
Oh, it might be a snooker, yeah.
He can come off the cushion, but he's not going to have huge control if he has to come off the cushion.
Come on the cushion, he'll try and push the black towards, as we see it now, the bottom right-hand pocket. Which is now the bottom left-hand pocket.
Yeah, this is a bit annoying, because if you could just see this is a formality, he just trickles it down towards this pocket, whereas I think the problem is, because the ball's quite close to the pocket, it's not like he can get to the cushion, it's not like he can get right in behind it to knock it out. There's a risk you could end up knocking this safe if you're not careful.
And that was a danger. I'm surprised he played that hard, to be honest. Thought he'd play a little bit softer.
Yes, I mean there was a lot that could go wrong. It would have been easy to knock it safe on the bottom cushion. By hitting it harder to avoid that possibility, he's, well, not exactly safe, but it's not it's not exactly inviting, is it?
Now will the double go in? No. Double kissed it, so massive chance for the Irish now, because they must have thought they were definitely going 7-4 down and on the hill for England.
They absolutely have to take this. 6-5 and they're right back in this match. Any miss from Paul Kelly is going to be very costly here. He's looked like a good player who's nervous so far. He now needs to look like a good player who's in control of the situation.
I think all the neutrals want Paul to clear up here to keep it a nice close match.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if Ireland get back to 6-5 down, anyone's game.
A big contingent on the left-hand side of the table here, hoping it doesn't get remotely close and that England stroll over the winning line. Now, if this was an England player here, I think you'd be much more confident about them clearing up. I mean, I think he's done the right thing, but the only trouble is, you invite Dave back to the table, and this is the kind of black that you can put a proper hit on, like you can come off one cushion and hit this firmly.
You never really want to leave a player one cushion out, because if you hit it hard, it can go in the corner bag. You could go for the cock-tack double in the middle.
And also, the slight problem still for Ireland is they've got this ball a little bit safe on the right-hand side. So although he's knocked out one of the other slightly difficult ones, they've still got one ball safe.
So I'm surprised he didn't go for it, because even if it jawed in the pocket, it was the pocket where the black was.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like that might have been a wiser option.
So let's see what he's going for here.
Got to just give this a chance.
Oh,
and it's down.
And there's a salsa dance.
Wild celebrations from the England team. I mean, he was playing that. It wasn't a high percentage shot, but that was exactly as he played it, and that was exactly the risk of the way that Paul left that shot.
That's always a danger of leaving the other player another go, really, isn't it? As you said, it was a right sort of safe shot, but just giving another chance. That's why I felt he should go for the clearance at that stage, especially as the tricky ball, even if it didn't drop in, would meant that the black couldn't go in that pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be ruining that chance now. Now, and up for Ireland is stepping Dave McQuillan, a man who will be massively ruining the chance that he had in the first session. Very bad positional shot, followed by a miss brought about by that. Led to him failing to clear up. So it's McQuillan breaking off in what could be the last frame of the match.
Rob Warren breaking off this time.
I'm sorry.
You've made the same mistake I made in the first set.
I have. I was looking at where he was standing. I was thinking because he was on the right-hand side, it was the Irish player, but it doesn't really work like that.
So England on the hill. And that was a lovely break, that was.
So, Rob Warren's first appearance in this match. He also came on as a sub in the victory against India last night. Another rather talented player to have coming off the bench.
So really the only tricky ball here for Rob is the yellow on the left-hand cushion. But you can use that as his last ball to just do a soft screw back to get onto the black. But it looks like he's going to take it now. Again, it's another one of these shots that even if it rattles and stays over the pocket, he's got a bit of control with those two reds there near it. But he seems confident. It's going to be difficult to see Ireland getting back on the table on this one. They've had a great competition so far. Pulled it back to 4-all in the final. For England have looked like won the last 3. With some cracking clearances from Gavin Lomax and then a cracking black from Dave Fernandez. And it looks like England are 2 shots away from regaining the title that they won 2 years ago. I'm sure Steve Mills, the England manager on the side, is extremely nervous at the moment, even with the scoreline. Beautifully played. Well played, England. So with this black going in, that'll mean England win 8 frames to 4. And if you hold on, we'll be doing interviews with players for you. There we go. Well played.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2 great teams and a great final. Spirited performance by Ireland. They fought hard last night through their semi-final. They put up a great performance today, but ultimately not quite enough. Let's have a big cheer for Team Ireland. Let's grab a word with the winning captain, Lee Kendall. Well done, Lee. Nice after 2 difficult years to regain the title.
Yeah, it was a tough match, a tough tournament, but I think this year we probably did deserve it. We were good all week, and but like I said in the semi-final, to win it you have to beat a great team, and Ireland are a great team, so another great tournament by them, and they've won it before, they know what it's like, and I'm sure they'll be back again.
And how much do you think it helps? You had a comparatively easy progress last night, whereas the Irish lads were playing till late into the night, perhaps slightly fresher today?
Yeah, and I said to the lads, you know, forget what they did last night because they couldn't have another match like that. They're too good a team to play as bad as they did last night. So I know they were relieved to get to the final, but they were always going to race the game. You know, it was nip and tuck. We were 2-0 down. We had to fight hard and showed good strength. And Gav potted a massive ball that got us going. Benny took a big finish out. You know, the whole team. I mean, I brought the subs in as well. A great squad of 10 players.
Fantastic performance. Well done. To present the trophy, let's welcome into the arena the President of the World 8-Ball Pool Federation, Joe Fante. Big cheer for Team England.